What it mean to be the best? Riding foes, feeling unimpressed. Make me reminisce, throwing bows, bend the corner, set my mind up on the goal. All I know is stay down, bad, I'm the goal. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now ain't no debate. Yeah. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now ain't no debate. Yeah. I ain't gotta say much. Know the boy got a touch. Another win for the rush. Another win for the rush. See me once and got a crush. See you twice and that's enough. Get the ring size.
What's up, guys? Welcome in to Tell the Truth podcast. We are back here for episode 75, recapping the Kansas City Chiefs 2025 NFL draft. It is in the books. Draft season. It's come to a close, mercifully.
Thank God.
God is great, fellas. We made it another year down.
Thank God.
Thank you to everybody that made it by the live streams. We had a lot of fun with them on day one and day two, and popping out a little bit on day three for those that came into the playback room. Appreciate everybody that also signed up for the playback room. We'll continue to use that throughout the summer and obviously as the season starts. DG, CJ, how you guys feeling, man?
I'm glad it's over, bro. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we know who the next crop of young Chiefs are gonna be. I'm happy with what they were able to get accomplished over the last weekend. And we'll see how all these guys are working. They all seem to be ready to come in and make an impact. So credit to Brett Veach and his staff for doing their homework and nailing the draft the way they thought they should go about it. So
Josh Simmons, Chris Simmons, Ben Simmons, Chiefs and 4.
Chiefs and 4, right?
I don't give a damn. I don't give a piss. Now I'm playing. Overall, I'm happy with the draft. I think we addressed all the areas of need that we needed. We all knew we had to take the necessary risk at tackle. It's a scary risk at that, but we all knew it was something that had to be done. We're not in position to find left tackles of Josh Simmons' caliber at 31, regardless of the injury. So obviously Rick and the staff visited him with him twice. Once at their pro day, and then once when they brought him into the building. So they got the best look at him possible. They feel he checks out, and they're going to give him the best chance to succeed. They felt they've dealt with this injury prior. They said he's going to give him the best chance to be out there and be the best player he can be. And the only thing we can do now is pray at this point because you can't control injuries. You can prepare and train and rest all you want. At the end of the day, the body's going to do what the body does. So Josh, you just got to pray and hope he's available. But everybody else, check the boxes: linebacker, receiver, edge, D tackle. Depth at corner is always good for a team like us, especially when you got to have such a pedigree with guys like Coach Merritt and Coach Bagg. So every area of need we pretty much hit. So the biggest thing is just praying that big fella's going to be ready to go next year, or whenever he's available to play. So
yeah, absolutely. Ooh. And we're going to start off by talking a little bit of news that we got after the draft. Today, we're going to go, kind of overboard real quick as far as the draft and what the haul ended up looking like for this class. That'll be coming in, talk a little bit about rookie minicamp, and then talk specifically about the 3 offensive players that are a part of this rookie class for the Kansas City Chiefs. Talk a little bit about some questions that need to be answered, what the 2025 role may look like, what their fits are on the roster now or into the future. And we'll have some fun in talking about that and our specific views as far as their skills are concerned, and then talk a little bit about the UDFAs as well. But first, we will get into the Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis, which news, but it was expected news, picking up their 5th-year option. It'd be about $13 million for Trent McDuffie. George Karlaftis will be a little bit under that given his draft slot. So it'll be fascinating to see what both of those guys' contract ends up looking like. George Karlaftis would be $15 million. That has to do with the defensive end being a little bit more value than cornerback. So obviously expected news. There's a lot of conversation as far as, hey, what does this mean for these guys, long-term future, et cetera, et cetera. Some of it valid, some of it not as valid. And obviously, I think the thing that needs to be said here is what Veach said pre-draft. We're going to get Trey Smith right after the draft. It's the number one priority. There is a July deadline as far as being able to get a long-term extension done with Trey Smith. Both sides want it to happen. I expect it to happen. Next thing after that is going to be Trent McDuffie. And then after that is going to come George Karlaftis. So that's what's to be expected. Ultimately, what that number looks like for George Karlaftis, and if he ends up taking it, it's going to be a question mark. If a number maybe even gets put on the table, it's going to be a question mark. So we'll see. But it does, bode well, obviously. And both of these things had to happen because Trent McDuffie's, fifth-year option would be a part of any extension as well. So I don't think there's anything really to ask. As far as Trent McDuffie, we all know he should get paid, should be extended by the time that, week one starts. I don't think there's any disagreement there. The George Karlaftis of it all, I think, is the more interesting conversation. How do you guys feel about the prospects of extending George Karlaftis this year? If not this year, what do you need to see from him to make you want to extend him? And how do you feel like he should get paid relative to the league? Like a top 30 guy, top 20 edge, a top 10 edge? Like, where do you guys feel that he falls as far as that is concerned?
Well, we all know we all agree he deserves to get paid. It's just about the amount. So
yeah,
it's probably continuous.
Sure.
Kind of based on, like DG said earlier, what he does this season. Because, do I want to extend him? Of course. George is only, 23, 24 now? Been here 3 years? So
24.
Yeah, so, obviously he's young. We got him at 21 out of Purdue. He's done nothing but get better and produce. Obviously, the biggest questions we had when he first came to the team, I know me and DG questioned, his flexibility or his bend off the edge, and I think he's improved in that area. He's put in the work in the offseason, and the numbers have shown. He's been a double-digit sack guy, playing with and without Chris Jones, playing with and without Charles Omenihu. He's proved how good of a player he is. So if he goes out there and solidifies his talent by having another double-digit season, I don't think you're going to get too many arguments out of me, DG, or DMac himself about paying George. It's just about, like we said, the requirements of the guys that are the top in the league. George is not one of the elite rushers. He's not a top 5 or top 10 guy, but we start talking early, top 20, top 30 guys. He's right in that range of getting paid. So it's just about, obviously, we'll see what the cap is next year. We kind of have a projected about what we think that number is going to be, but he definitely deserves to get paid. I don't think that's not the question at all. It's just about how much do they think Veach think he's worth, and I think this season will definitely predicate that a lot for sure.
Yeah, I would say for me, it would probably have to be in the range of where a guy that's had his similar production probably would have gotten paid at this point. I can't name who that player is right now.
I'm gonna look at the list and see the top, those edges.
That was
well, we could. Yeah, I was gonna say we could definitely look at it.
That'd be the best way to compare it.
Give me after the top 10. We know he's not in that area.
Yeah, so he's definitely not top 10.
But those guys after.
Probably say, is he top 20 range?
It's debatable. I think once we see their names, we can kind of see the talent.
Yeah,
compare side by side. All right, he's better than him. He's on his level. So.
So here you go, and this is sorted by average per year.
Yeah,
as far as the top guys is concerned, and I want to give a little bit of context as well because I do think that it's important to understand, where these guys both fit in relation to their contracts, and then where George Karlaftis kind of brings out, but. Just looking at this list, I mean, where do you guys feel like Karlaftis may slot in?
And just for reference, for numbers wise, George was 27th in the league in sacks last year. Yeah. He was tied for 27. So,
well, I would definitely say he's just as good as, or not, if better than a Chase Young. So maybe Young is at
Chase Young was at 17 million a year.
Alex Heifetz is debatable. Keep going down, past Eric Armstead. Let me see. Who else is on the list? Okay. Idabo, Harold Landry, Eric Armstead. Okay, now we're in the area he's better. He's anybody above Joey Bosa, he's better than. I'll take those guys. So he's in that, what we said, that little Chase Young to Josh Sweat area. Anywhere in between there, I think it's fair for him. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think he's better than Joey Bosa at this point in his career. Jonathan Cooper, Hassan Reddick is he lost a lot of money and he's old as hell by now. Harold Landry used to have some pop. We'll kind of see. Alex Highsmith I like a lot. Chase Young we had him on our list for guys we don't mind signing. Bryce Huff is severely overrated in my opinion. Khalil Mack is the ageless wonder, still balling. Bradley Chubb can't stay healthy. Josh Sweat just got paid a lot of money. So I think he's like right in between that Josh Sweat and Highsmith area for me, somewhere around that area for sure.
So let's do a little bit of context for these guys, because I think it is important just to look at them from that perspective. So let's George Karlaftis last year had 61 pressures, just total flat out. And some guys that are around there, Gregory Rousseau, who got the extension from the Bills. Again, a mark to hit. $20 million flat. He had 63. You mentioned obviously Chase Young, who had 66. What was another name that you guys had just mentioned? Sorry, I'm trying to find another guy that especially Jonathan Grenard had 80. So it's variable for another measure as far as pressures and the value of them from that standpoint. Karlaftis was 51st in the league in PFF's pressure kind of metric. Guys like Rousseau was 22nd, Chase Young was 24th. So it's variable as far as what his performance is, how quickly he's able to win, and all of those things do matter. I believe Karlaftis was 49th as far as win percentage in the league. So, and I say this not to say that George Karlaftis is a bad player at all, because I think that he's a very good player, a very good edge. He's somebody that is important to what the Chiefs do because of his ability to push the pocket, play all three downs at a defensive end, have very good run defense, and he also knows how to finish plays, and he's a good cleanup guy. And you need that when you're talking about a complementary pass rush. But am I willing to give him Gregory Rousseau $20 million a year money? I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing to go there for him. I think that's a little bit pricey.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
I don't know if I want to give Gregory Rousseau that kind of.
For sure.
I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't want to give Gregory Rousseau that money either. But that's obviously it's a function of that as well. So I think that he is a starting caliber edge as far as the NFL is concerned, and that's a good player. I don't know if you come to a conclusion where an extension ends up happening from a money standpoint where his value and your value end up meshing well. And I think that's ultimately why it makes sense to probably play out the string as far as his contract is concerned through the 5th year option and seeing where things go.
Make him earn it. I think that's fair. I guess there's a situation where you get Trent McDuffie's deal done during training camp. That wouldn't shock any of us. He's earned that. He's been All-Pro multiple times. And I think if there's a world where, like you said, they want to wait on George, that's respectable. He's a good edge, not elite. He's not terrible either. He's solid for us. I think he's around the league. Most people would agree he's solid. So if they wanted to wait another year before they made a decision, I'd be fine with that for sure.
Yeah. And he compares a little bit more favorably. Like he's 31st as far as true press sets and the pressure, things are concerned. Chase Young's around 26th. Rousseau's 10th. So and it's not something to say that he can't get better especially because he's a better run defender than both of those guys. It's just I think you would have to see a significant jump in becoming a good push the pocket cleanup guy with an incredibly high motor to being somebody that really takes advantage of one-on-ones, probably at a higher level than George Karlaftis does this year. If you're talking about extension for him prior to that 5th year option being selected, and yes, he is still young and he still can get better. So we'll see what ends up happening from that aspect too.
Plenty of time to get better.
Absolutely. So that was a little bit as far as the 5th year options were concerned, but obviously there were some defensive line guys that were ended up taken as far as this draft is concerned to add to the Kansas City Chiefs roster. And so did want to put this on the screen so that we could all kind of look at the class in totality. Obviously, Josh Simmons was the 1st round pick. Omar Norman-Lott, the 2nd round pick out of Tennessee, defensive tackle. Ashton Gelati, the 3rd round pick, defensive end out of Louisville. 3rd round pick, Noah Williams, cornerback out of Cal. 4th round pick, Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Utah State. Jeffrey Bassa, linebacker of Oregon in the 5th round. And finally, they finished up by trading up for Brashard Smith with the last 2 7th round picks to grab the running back out of SMU. So The trade back for Josh Simmons, I think we all agree, good process. The fact that you get Josh Simmons and add a 5th round pick, even if people may not be the biggest fans of Josh Simmons, the fact that you get both of those, I think, are a good process. Agreed from that standpoint. Moving up a little bit for Noah Williams, using that Joe Tooney 4th round pick is something that is notable. Obviously, they really like Noah Williams and felt like they had to go out and get it done. They obviously targeted him. Still getting Jalen Royals and Jeffrey Basser where they did, and Brashard Smith, I think all counts is pretty good process. So anything from you guys as far as playing the board, you can include kind of positions that Vedvik chose to attack and when he chose to attack them. Obviously, the trades he chose to do as well. Anything that struck you as maybe you wouldn't have done it that way, or things you would want to change, kind of looking at a 10,000-foot view as far as the draft class is concerned?
I think they executed how they needed to, especially with the way the board fell. Going into this process, everything's not going to necessarily go your way, and I think you have to make adjustments on the fly. I think the Bassa pick is kind of an example of that. I think at that point in time, that's probably where they wanted to start trying to go and get the running back that they like. But I think, unfortunately, the way the board fell, it just didn't fall in their favor. And I think that they felt at that point to kind of shift their mind and focus back to the defensive side of the ball. There was a real need and emphasis for a guy like him to come in. They needed a coverage linebacker, former safety, who I guess obviously feels like has athleticism to come in and play that role for them. So I understand them going to do that. I know a lot of people are kind of skeptical of that pick at that point in time, but I just think that's how things ended up working out. It's not always not going to go the way you want it to go, but you got to have a plan B at this point, and I think that's what Bassa ended up being in their process.
Obviously at that 5th round pick, a lot of us were expecting them to take a running back, so I'm not surprised that they did it in the positions that we talked about during our pre-draft process. The ones they hit were the ones that they drafted. So we all wanted to get into the linebacker for athletic speed. We wanted, a lot of us like Denny Stutzman and Chris Paul Jr. and obviously Kaiser. A lot of those guys got drafted before Bassa. Bassa was the guy I looked at. I just didn't think he was high on their board. But obviously, when the 3 guys we all talked about were all picked over, at that point, you got to go with the guy that's best left over on their board. So I'm not surprised they went Jeffrey Bassa. Would have liked to see them get DJ Giddens at that 5th round pick, because when they drafted him, he was still available. So I think most of us would have been more comfortable with that. But during the whole draft process, and even during the college football playoff, I love Brashard Smith's film. Even during the regular season, I was watching him for betting reasons, but I love watching the kid play. He's just a versatile weapon. Now he's going to be a 3rd down back. He's not going to be somebody you're going to ask to play every down, all 3 downs. Of course, he's going to be a specialty player. Use him in certain packages. Use him in red zone. I think his speed and versatility with Zay in the red zone, Andy's probably scheming up plays right now as we speak about that. So I love that pick. Obviously, Jalen Royals was extremely high on mostly everyone's board. Most people had him as a 2nd round value. So the fact that we got him at late was extremely good for us. And then Noah Williams, another guy that was severely underrated. Most people had him as a 2nd round value as well. So, and then as far as Ashton and Omar, I think that getting those guys where they're at, we all know we needed juice and more edge to our rushing room, to our rushing roulette. As far as like our D-line room, we needed more juice, more speed. Because the biggest issue before Charles got back with the D-line room was we kept saying it all year, we're not getting to the quarterback. We don't have any juice. So all the positions make sense to me. I'm not upset about with any pick, honestly. And the greatest thing about this room, fellas, is like nobody has to come in and produce right away. Everybody come in and can support the room that they're in. The only guy that we have expectations on starting when the time is right is Josh. Outside of Josh, everybody else can just come in and just support the room, rotate, make plays when they're needed to. We all know rookies don't just hop on the scene with the Chiefs at first and foremost, first half of the year. But once we get to the second half of the year, then they'll start popping on when they start getting more comfortable with the system and the scheme and everything. But overall, no, I think we killed the draft. I think we did a great job. Now it's just about getting everybody in tune, getting everybody in the camp, getting everybody ready for the season. And the biggest thing, like I said from the jump, just keeping Josh healthy, man. If Josh is ready to roll, this can be a overall A+ draft for me. But the way we played the board, I think we did it amazingly. You got good value at rush. You got amazing value. I'll say the 2 biggest values we got were Jalen Royals and Noah Williams. I think most people had those guys ranked way higher than we got them at both round 3 and round 4.
Yeah.
Most people had those guys in the second round pick. So those will be the two biggest values of the guys we got out of our whole draft for sure. And those guys could turn into long-term starters for us, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I'd say, you know, specifically as being able to move around, I thought they did a good job. And I think they specifically attacked those pockets in the right places. Because, you know, the fact that you got Josh Simmons at the end of the first round, but we're also able to trade back for him. And, you know, there are some aspects of them being tied together, yes. But it's more so that Bassa, as whatever Bassa gives, is automatically a plus to whatever Josh Simmons is, as far as the pick is concerned. From that standpoint, really, that's what it comes down to. And then, you know, you saw the run of defensive tackle kind of hitting to end the second round to start the third round. So they got out in front of that to get Ashton there. I thought was pretty good value. Well, I would say personally for me, he wasn't necessarily there on the board, but, you know, it kind of worked from that standpoint. Noah Williams, I thought, was a good place back into the third round as well. Royals was somebody that we kind of all thought was, yeah, like you said, going to have to go on day 2, but the fact to grab him there. And Brashard Smith in the 7th was good value too. So I thought they played it well. I thought they got in front of the player runs and the positional runs that made sense, and they add guys that made sense for our board as well. Overall, and I was going to ask this as well as far as what you guys think. Give me, guys, your grade, and then how much does the Josh Simmons risk factor into affecting that grade either way?
I guess I'll start. So this is a B plus for me. I think the Josh Simmons pick. Yeah, I don't know have everybody seen my reaction draft night. Yeah, I think from as far as the Josh Simmons pick goes, it would. It's still, I'm still at a point where I'm trying to, I guess you could say, get over it, or
wrap your head around it.
Wrap my head around
grasp it, firmly grasp it.
Yeah, firmly grasp it.
Like
I said, I understand the need for the position, and the need for not having that revolving door at left tackle anymore, but at the same time, the risk to me was just it's a little too high, if you ask me. But again, I am not Brevich. I am not Rick Burkholder. I don't look at torn patella tendons every day and things of that nature. So, if I'm wrong, then I'm willingly glad to be the idiot in this situation. But I just think that it was just a little bit too much of a risk for where the Chiefs are right now at this point in time, especially in this win now window. So my hope and prayer is that this kid can get on the field, but we don't really know that right now. As far as the rest of the class goes, I love what they did, and especially on the later on, probably after kind of round 3. I still love the Norman Lott pick as well, but I feel like getting Noah Williams and Jalen Royals was insane, incredible value, especially for guys that I personally had kind of higher on my list as far as where they would probably go. I felt like they had a chance maybe to get a guy like Noah Williams, but to hit Jalen Royals in the 4th round
crazy.
Especially after top 100 was crazy to me, because I really thought that they were going to have to probably get him a lot earlier in this draft. But credit to the rest of the 31 teams for sleeping on him and not choosing him and allowing him to get to the Chiefs. I really feel like the Chiefs ended up getting a guy who's going to be a starter for them for the foreseeable future, and will really create a great trio of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Jalen Royals for the future of targets for Patrick Mahomes. So overall, it's a B plus for me. If Josh Simmons ends up playing this year and he's healthy, then it's a home run A minus, in my opinion. With him getting on the field, it's just all predicated with him playing. So
for sure, no, carbon copy it for me. B plus draft. If Josh is the Simmons starter and he's healthy and he's here for the next 8 to 10 years and help Pat finish out the second back half of his career, then obviously you're going to get no complaints from me. It'll be an A plus draft because finding a left tackle in this day and age is extremely hard, especially when you're a team that's drafting in 31, 32 every other year. So it's extremely tough for us to find guys that have legitimate talent of being a starter because usually those left tackles are never there to be available. So yeah, definitely a B plus draft for me. Turns into an A plus if Josh is healthy. So it's all predicated on his body, things we can't control, like I said, but everything else in these positions, I love the value. I love the juice that Amar's going to bring to the D-line room. Same thing with Ashton. We needed that last year. As far as losing guys like Turk, we all expect Dana to probably not be here after his contract as well. So I love those young additions as well. As far as Brashard, anytime you get a speedy running back who's versatile, who can catch the ball in the backfield.
That's not true. I'm sorry.
We'll talk about that in a second. Just keep going.
You know Andy's going to figure out a way to use him. So I think Brashard will be amazing in this offense. The two guys that I love the most in the draft, like I said earlier, like DG, Noel, and Jalen, I thought those guys were amazing value for us. I thought they would be going a lot sooner. So the fact that we can get Noel, who I think will be a starter, Jalen, I think will be a starter for us to get those guys in the third and fourth round. Veach was cooking again and hit on 2 amazing picks. And we know under Mahomes, you should always draft a receiver every year. And the fact that we got Jalen Royals, a top 100 pick lock for most people, we got him in the 4th round is amazing value. So Veach definitely was cooking another banger with that one. Noel fits our DB room to a T. A long, lanky defender, a guy that's a willing tackler, a ball hawk, something we haven't had here in a very long time. So to add him to this room, I think is only going to make us better. It's only going to make other guys better, like Jalen and Josh and guys from that 22 class where their clock is kind of ticking as far as their rookie deal. Trent's established himself as one of the best corners in football. So bringing in a guy like Noel is only going to make this room better. Iron sharpens iron. As far as the DB room, y'all hear me say this every year, everybody's going to play. So you have to be ready when your number's called. To bring in a guy like him when obviously injuries, you don't want them to happen, but unfortunately do. Like last year when we lost guys like Jalen for parts of the season, having a guy like Noel who could step in if those things happen, like knock on wood, we don't want that to happen. But if it does, we're prepared way more now than we were a year ago. Jeffrey Boss is just going to add more athleticism to that linebacker group. Like we all said we needed. We needed that Willie Gay replacement. Somebody that's going to bring that juice to that third linebacker spot. He'll come in and be a situational player. They're not going to ask much from him to play every single down because that's what you have Drew and you have Nick for. But to have him rotating with guys like Leo Chenal and using him over the field, all over the field, I love that value for that room as well. So, no, overall, the draft is great. I don't think that none of these were misses. All these guys can contribute. None of them are going to be asked to be starters year one, which I love even more. They could just come in, learn the playbook, get used to the organization, get used to the NFL grind of playing 17 games compared to playing 12 in college and NFL in the college football playoff. So these guys are all going to be contributors, but the two I'm definitely the high on the most is definitely Noel and Jalen. I think those guys will be stars for us for years to come and definitely be long-term players for us.
Yeah. So to me, it's an A- of a draft. And I was comfortable with the Josh Simmons pick being even a trade up, really. And I thought because of the position that he plays and what he has as far as his tape is concerned, again, to me, the best tape of any tackle in this class. And I'm somebody that loved Armand Membu as well. And thought very highly of Will Campbell, but what he brings to the table, how he improved from 2023 to 2024, it comes with understandable risk, but it's risk that makes sense for a guy that's level of prospect at this specific position, a position that you're usually not going to get at the back end of the first round as well. I was an advocate for Omar Norma a lot throughout the entirety of this process. I understand the skepticism. He's nowhere near Derek Nottie. That's not, they're two very different type of players. Derek Nottie is a run stuffer, early down type of guy. Omar Norma was a rotational player there at Tennessee because that's the way that they did things. He is somebody that is an internal disruptor. He is somebody that is shorter, still packs a lot of power. He understands how to get up underneath offensive guards and centers from that standpoint and give them a lot of issues. He understands how to use his hands very well, and he's got some cross-chop moves. I think that he has a good skill set. I wouldn't say there's anything overly dominant. I'm not saying that I think he has a ceiling of being a Chris Jones replacement, but I do think that he can be Tershar Wharton plus as far as what he brings to the table as far as the Chiefs are concerned. And to CJ's point, he's going to be in a rotation, so you're not necessarily concerned with putting him out there for 40 snaps a game. That's not where you got to do. He's going to be out there for 20 snaps a game, 15 snaps a game, and trying to be a disruptive guy that he was in college over the pros. And I think he can do that. Ashton is a guy that is, George Karlaftis, just a little bit shorter and a little bit slightly lesser arms with more flexibility and bend, honestly, coming out as a prospect, which are things that I kind of like. He allows you to bring depth into the defensive end room. So I'm good with the pick 2. Noah Williams is somebody that I loved a lot throughout this process as well. Yes, he is worth it because people are going to make me the Omar Norman defender. But you don't find disruptive defensive tackles in the third round or later. Not in this specific draft class, not because of how defensive tackle is now being valued. It just does. You're not going to find them. The guy that got picked after him, Darius Alexander. Darius Alexander is an older prospect, a little bit more of a 3-down prospect, and it's because he doesn't necessarily have as much pass rush use, but he does have the ability to defend the run. You need to develop him as far as the pass rush aspect of it, but the issue is he's older, so that's the trade-off that comes with it. So the back end of the second round is perfectly fine for me to pick Omar Norman. Some people would say otherwise. That's perfectly fine. I understand it. But the reality of the situation is he was one of the best in college football at creating disruption from the interior. And that's exactly what the Chiefs need because they had struggled significantly. And that's with Tershawn Wharton. It's with Mike Dana. It's with Charles Omenihu at trying to create pressure with 4. That's what the Chiefs struggled with a lot. And we have to have the ability to do that on a consistent basis. And if they're not,
called him another naughty. Who is this guy?
if they're not going to do that, then that's going to be a consistent issue. It's the reason why every time in the Super Bowl, you saw a whole bunch of one-on-ones with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith that Jalen Hurts took advantage of because we had the blitz because we couldn't get after the quarterback.
Exactly.
So they have to be able to get after it up front, and that's why Ashton and Omar are both picked there to help out the defensive line of doing that.
He compared them to naughty.
A lot of people have to understand, especially at the college level, some of these guys aren't asked to do certain things. So there were going back and looking at some of his tape. There were some reps that I seen in the run game, especially not on early downs, but in third long stuff like that, where he was able to get pressure, be able to create some penetration in the middle of that line and be able to make some impact plays. I think he's got the athleticism to be able to do that. Is he an every down player? Probably not. But at this point in time, I think that they needed to find somebody that could replace that Turk Wharton role for them and be able to give Chris Jones some help on that interior on pass rush reps. So I understand rotational guy as far as, you don't get a guy that you feel like can play every down, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. And Turk Wharton was, when he got with us, he was that kind of guy, and he improved year after year after year up until this last year where they were willing to trust him in certain situations against the run, and he got better. So I think with coming in and having Steve Spagnuolo and having Joe Cullen being able to coach him up and be under their tutelage, I think that this kid can obviously come in and provide some juice for them in those areas. So we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen with him. But that's what I tell everybody with draft picks, man. Is you guys just wait and see on the field. You never know what's going to happen. This kid could come in and be the next Chris Jones. I mean, I know that's kind of speaking highly or whatever, but we don't know until we actually see him play on the field. So.
And as far as
I'll say he's not going to come in and be the next Chris Jones.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, I know.
He can't be somebody that is disruptive. Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah.
But as far as from a defensive tackle perspective, watching him rush the passer, I don't get what you would not like about this kid. Obviously, the size may be a little bit of a concern, but from a defensive tackle perspective, when you're naturally short, it kind of helps you with leverage. So obviously, he'll automatically win in those type of situations. But from a pass rush standpoint, like DMac said earlier, he has the hands, he has the feet, he has the natural pass rush moves that you don't see from most rookies. So from that standpoint, I don't see how you wouldn't like this pick. If you don't think he could play every down, that part I would understand. Like on run heavy downs, if we're playing certain teams,
he's not going to play every down. He can't play. He's not a run defense.
Exactly. Like you brought him in to do a specific trait which we needed, which was juice in the rush game, and he's going to do that for you. So, and that's his job. So
exactly. And I understand having a nit to pick as far as, is it worth picking a rotational interior pass rusher at the 63rd pick of the draft?
Yeah,
I understand that. I truly do.
But the traits are there. You can't deny
rush the passer. That is
very well.
That is the most valuable thing you can do as far as a defensive player can do. And I understand it being a rotational player. He's nothing like Derek Nottie. The reason why Derek Nottie isn't that impactful is because he's a run stuffer. He doesn't get up to the passer. That's the reality of the situation. So it is okay, the fact that they have identified that they need to be able to create pass rush juice with 4. And obviously they struggled with that last year. Omar Normalat and Ashton Gelati are a part of being able to do that. Now, we'll talk about the role next week as far as that, pertains to the draft, to the depth chart, and that's concerned. We'll talk about it absolutely. But his specific skill set, if you're going to bet on a rotational skill set and in the second round, that's the one that you bet on, because it is very important for what you can do as far as the defense is concerned. And it's very important for what a Spags defense specifically wants to do at being able to get pressure with 4. Just to finish it out, we'll talk about Jalen Worlds in a little bit. Jeffrey Bassa, he's somebody I didn't do a lot of work on pre-draft. The fact that he comes over with the coverage skills of a safety, obviously, in which he transitioned from, the fact that he's comfortable turning his head, the fact that he's comfortable in coverage, I like it a lot. It allows you to move on from Drew Tranquil at the end of next year, in my personal opinion. And we'll see how he develops from that standpoint. And obviously, the fact that he called the defense at Oregon makes Spags feel comfortable with the mental side of the game as upsides. That's an important piece on both ends as well. So that's why my grade generally A-. The Josh Simmons thing can take it to an A or A+ based on, obviously, A is health, and then B, just what level of left tackle he ends up getting to. And obviously, this is all variable in general, but that would be my way of couching it to start out. I would like more of an explosive playmaker, but ultimately, too, that they got at the value they got him. I'm not going to have too many qualms with it. So all that being said, obviously, we can get into a little bit of the individual kind of topics. And we're going to start out kind of talking about Josh Simmons. Obviously, Ohio State left tackle Josh Simmons. He played the entirety of 2023, showed, again, the athleticism, the ability to anchor. The arm length is 34 and 8 inches, as was talked about pre-draft as well. He showed all those things in 2023, and then in 2024, he took the jump to refine them. His hand usage got better. He understood what the timing was. He just has a natural way of being able to play left tackle, both in the run, the pass game. That's very important. And also the way that he does it in the run game works a lot for what Andy Reid is going to want to do with his tackles, especially getting them out in space. You talk about the screen game, etc. So I'm extremely excited to see Josh Simmons play. The question I have for you guys is one quick one. A, are there any questions that you guys feel as far as the prospect level is and as far as the tape? Any questions that you haven't as far as what that is concerned? And then B, given the injury situation, given the fact that there's been investment in Jalen Moore and Jawan Taylor, what is your ideal role for Josh Simmons in 2025? And then what is your ideal tackle pairing in 2026?
So to your first question, no, because the tape is phenomenal.
Play is there.
Yeah, he can obviously play, and I loved everything I seen on tape.
Shout out to Alex Smith High School.
I don't think we've had a left tackle that could play at his caliber or what he can actually do on the field. Maybe since Derek Fisher.
Eric Fisher's the best tackle we didn't have.
And that's saying a lot because Eric Fisher.
Y'all hated Derek Fisher.
I would say we haven't had a tackle with that skill set easily since Eric Fisher, and I would say that he's got potential
to be way better.
Than Eric Fisher, with all due respect, because he's starting from a much better place as a prospect is concerned, from his technical ability, and he's more athletic. He's got the arm length. So that would be my personal opinion, that he has the potential to be even better than Eric Fisher. We haven't had this specific skill set since Eric Fisher either.
Yeah. From that standpoint, I'm that, if that's, like I said, if he's healthy, he's probably not a Kansas City Chief.
He's definitely
going to
top 10
to sure. Patriots, somewhere in that range, or where he's probably the top 5 taken off the board or whatever, being the first tackle gone. But fortunately, that's how sometimes things work. The injury standpoint, to be, like I said, is still a massive risk. So far as his role this year, I would probably say he's probably the backup to Jalen Moore right now, until further notice. And then I think moving on to next year into 2026, you'll probably see him be the starting left tackle, with maybe moving Jalen Moore to right tackle and having that work the way they would want to. I think that was probably for them the plan moving forward. I think they're probably going to end up moving away from Jawan Taylor at some point next year. So I could see that being where they would like to go. But hopefully, man, if he's able to get on the field this year, I'm impressed.
Sure.
Yeah, if he can get on the field this year and start for them, that to me will solidify, like I said, Bravich having an A+ draft if it works out that way. But it's just a wait and see type of basis. I know this injury is not something you necessarily come back from very quickly or anything like that. I know the rehab and stuff for him is going really well, and I'm happy for that. But hopefully he continues to progress, and we can see what he's got in training camp. And if he wins the job, yeah, if he wins the job, man, Jalen Moore, yeah, I don't know what to tell him.
I mean, well, it's twofold. Obviously, we know Jalen Moore was here to be insurance, and obviously for a guy that could switch over to right side if need be. We know Jalen Moore wasn't the long-term solution when you're obviously prospecting a guy like Josh Simmons. So to answer DMac's question, no question about his tape. A lot of people's eyes, he was the best left tackle in the country, and this is a guy that played right tackle at San Diego and then transferred to Ohio State, and clearly was the elite left tackle and performed and proved himself why he's one of the best in the country this year. So obviously, I love everything that Josh Simmons did on the field. Hate to see him go down like that because Ohio State was having a special season. Ended obviously with him winning the national championship, and they brought over.
They still won. What you mean? You made it seem like they.
But that shows you how good that line was. When Josh went down, they brought over Donovan Jackson. He started at left, and everything kept rolling as if nothing happened. So, but
just
before
put
he
another one in there.
Exactly. That's how good that line was. They had multiple guys, and you didn't even think about Josh Simmons after they left. They were like, oh, can this offense move? And then they moved him over. Then they blew out Tennessee. And the rest is history. So, no, nothing question about Josh's game. Loved his film. Loved his tape. Watched him on both sides. No questions for me. Just want to see him stay healthy. And then as far as the pairing I would like to see or what's his role for this year, in a perfect world, DG, I would love to see Josh sit the whole year. Get completely 100% healthy. I don't want to see you touch the field. Get all the rehab you can to make that knee as strong as possible. So then we can go into 2026 mini camp, training camp. He'll get all the reps and be the starter next year. And then have a full year to fully rehab. Because, this isn't like we know it's always Super Bowl or bust with a team like the Chiefs, but we've shown that we can win with multiple guys at left tackle. I know people hate hearing that, but we've kind of set that standard that we can take chances on guys and not rush them back because we know it's more of a long-term deal than a short-term deal. We're not in a one-year window like the Rams or something where they have a 37-year-old quarterback. Your quarterback is solidified. He's young. He's under the age of 30s. You have a whole other decade to win football games. So I'm not rushing Josh back personally. I will let Josh sit the entire year. And the pairing I would like to see next year would be Jalen Moore at right tackle and Josh Simmons at left tackle. We're rolling at that point, and a whole year with Kingsley getting reps at left guard. Hopefully he transitions as well. So I know it's a lot of scarcity. I know it's a lot of concern. So the most concerns I probably would have for the team would definitely be left side of the O-line naturally because there's two new faces over there. Joe Tooney is not on the field for us, so I get that from a standpoint. But definitely want to see Josh sit this year, rehab, get 100% healthy, and then we're ready to roll in 2026 with him at left tackle. That's my perfect scenario.
Yeah, that's generally how I feel as well. Ideally, you get Josh Simmons to sit on ice and have the full year to, rehab, feel good about the knee, feel fully confident in it, come back ready to go. Jalen Moore is doing his job as far as filling in at left tackle, giving you competent left tackle play in a way in which we did not have it last year. And I do believe that he can be better than anything we did have last year as far as that's concerned. Jawan Taylor is a competent right tackle, and even if, again, like we talked about, the fact that we expect him to move on, but if Jawan Taylor has a good enough season, then you maybe can get some trade value out of that. And at the end of the day, if it's cutting, then it's cutting. That is what it is. But I ideally in the first year sit Josh Simmons and then move Jalen Moore over to right tackle. I know if Jalen Moore has a good season as far as left tackle is concerned, that the want will be able to want to keep him there. And Josh Simmons, because of his right tackle experience at San Diego State, would say to move him over a right tackle. I prefer to keep Josh Simmons on the left side. He's comfortable playing there. He's played there the last 2 years. That's going to be your long-term prospect there, 2026 and beyond. That's where I would train him up. you can move Jalen Moore over. That's not an issue as far as that is concerned. He's had experience on both sides. So that would be generally how I would see that breaking down. And ultimately, I think that would return great value if he is healthy, of course, from that standpoint. Now, something goes wrong, Josh Simmons has to step up either to left tackle or right tackle, then that is what it is, and that's an understandable outcome. I just want them to take their time as far as his rehab is concerned to make sure that he's ready too. Yeah, I mean, people have been consistently high on Josh Simmons as well, and yes, that would be nice, but it'll be interesting to see from a roster standpoint if they truly do feel like he's ready ahead of time. Now, they've said that he is, going to be ready for camp, and we just got to see that happen. Now, if they feel like he could be ready for camp and they want to give him some preseason snaps, that's cool. I just don't want him to rush it. I don't need to see preseason snaps and a rushed rehab from that standpoint because of where they're at as far as the tackle situation is concerned. And also because we can talk about a little bit of the UDFA aspect of it a little bit later on too. So those are questions that I kind of had as far as Josh Simmons. Now to a more fun aspect and pick, which would be Utah State wide receiver Jalen Royals. Somebody that I had personally as
roll the highlights.
Royals.
Somebody that is extremely fun to watch play, to say the least. I wanted to see if I can pick it up. So I had Jalen Royals as my wide receiver 8 as far as my personal rankings. Obviously, you guys had your own personal rankings, and we kind of talked about this going into the draft and where that would fall to. I had Jalen Royals 10. I'm sorry. Jalen Royals at wide receiver 10. A lot of people, again, thought that he was a day 2 value. I personally had a 3rd round grade on him, so to get him in the 4th round is a good value. What he brings to the table, 6 foot, 200 and basically 200 pounds, even, it's 205. He has the ability to get off the line of scrimmage because he does have the feet for it, does have the ability to have the strength as well to fight off, good corners from their ability. We saw him go in some one-on-ones with Maxwell Harrison, and Harrison couldn't really get his hands on him effectively as well. He doesn't create a lot of separation, but he does create enough. He does understand how to extend and attack the ball as well, even though his arms aren't the longest. Brings 4.4 speed and an elite 1.5, 10-yard split. That acceleration shows up both before and after the catch, which I think is very important. I wouldn't call him an explosive athlete, but I would call him a very good one in the fact that he can create things after the catch too. So my question for you guys, as far as Jalen Royals is concerned, how do you feel about him, just generally speaking, as a prospect? What do you think he can immediately come in as far as 2025 is concerned? And then where do you think that his ceiling can go for 2026 and beyond?
Go ahead, CJ.
Probably in 2025, I think he can be a rotational receiver, probably be wide receiver 4 for this roster this year based off what we have. Whenever 1, 4, 5's on the field, I think those are guys that be one of the better trios in the league. So obviously we know Holly wasn't a 1-year deal. So I think Jalen can come in and complement what these guys do, learn from Rasheed, learn from Zay, and learn from Hollywood, and come in and just take his lumps. Obviously he's the rookie, so it's going to be a slow transition for him. But when he does pick it up, I think he's going to hit the ground running. I think he'd be a very explosive receiver. His run after catch is amazing. That's one of the big things we always talk about with our players on this team, but even more so receivers' versatility. Andy and everything preaches guys that can play multiple positions, and Jalen played primarily outside, but I think he has definitely the ability to play in the slot. You can see a lot of the clips in the film that I'm sure will show. He made a lot of plays from after catch, whether it be in the screen game, smoke screens, tunnel screens, put the ball in his hands. He can make plays, and he's not afraid to go over the middle and make catches as well. So I love everything that Jalen can do from a versatile standpoint. So I think this year, wide receiver 4 is probably more realistic from him. And if, God forbid, like I said earlier, if injury happens, he can step right in and be wide receiver 3 if need be. Hopefully we don't have to go through. I feel like the last 2 years we've been dealing with too many injuries or not consistent receiver plays. So hopefully we can get a clean, drama-free preseason and first half of the season and get all of our receivers on the field. I think Rasheed, Zay, and Hollywood could be really special together. Then we're adding Jalen Royals as our wide receiver 4. It's just icing on the cake for us. So, and then I think in 2026, once Hollywood's gone, Jalen can step right in, be that wide receiver 3, like DG said earlier. That's your rookie wide receiver rotation for the next 3 or 4 years, because you got Rasheed for another 2 years. You have Zay for another 4, and then you got Jalen for 4 years as well. So having all those guys locked up, you don't got to worry about paying anybody for a good amount of time. So that's a great value to have and a comfort level that I'm sure Pat loves, that all this speed and all this athleticism in the receiver room for the next 4 years, and you don't got to worry about paying anybody substantial money and dealing with contracts. So I love what Jalen Royals brings to the board. He was one of my favorite receivers in here. As far as like my tier 2 guys, he was definitely one of the guys that in that mirror level for me after like the top 3. But I think Jalen Rose is an amazing value. I think he'll be a really good player for us. He fits the mold of like a compared comp wise, like a Sammy or like a Jeremy Maclin. He fits like that 6 foot, 200 pound, can play inside, play outside, good hands, not afraid to go over the middle, great run after catch, can beat you down the field, can beat you short. He's just an overall versatile receiver. I think Andy's going to love him. He's going to make a lot of plays for us in the future for sure. Definitely a guy that'll be a long-term starter for us.
Before I allow DG to go, I do want to show this because obviously you mentioned it as far as the comp between Jalen Royals and Sammy Watkins. And you talk about that 6 foot, 200 pound type of guy. Ability. Yeah, damn near throwing that 4.4 speed, that 1.5, 10-yard split because of the acceleration being there. Sammy a little bit more explosive an athlete, I'll say. And the fact that he does have that longer arm length, I think, served him well. He's more polished as a route runner. Jalen Rose had a narrower, a more limited route tree as far as Utah State was concerned. I think that's a big key as far as understanding what his development path is going to look like. Sammy Watkins was more of a fully formed wide receiver. And obviously, certainly when he came to the Chiefs in his free agency, certainly was. But I think that's what you're looking like, and that's the kind of role that you're looking for as well. But Gigi, go ahead and give me your thoughts as far as the prospect and then obviously what you think his role immediately and in the future could be.
Yeah, before I start, I just want to say Sky Moore counter days.
You said that last year.
I mean it now.
It was hopes and wishes last year,
Yeah,
but now
hopes and wishes. That shit was cooked last year, guy.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Them drafting Jalen Moore just lets me know Sky Moore might not be making this team.
You said Jalen Moore.
Jalen Royals.
Jalen, let's go
Moore.
Royals.
We got too many Jalen's on the team, man.
We do a hell of Jalen. Jalen Moore.
Watson Royals.
Jalen Watson.
Royals.
Yeah. Too many Jalen's.
Chiefs and 4.
Right. But yeah, man, I love this pick. I think he was arguably one of my favorite prospects. I think coming into this, when Steve Smith Sr. signs off on you,
stamp of approval.
You're a pretty good player.
For sure.
So yeah, watching his tape, man, the release that he gets off the line, the explosion down the field, 4.4 speed, just adding that element to this offense, I think for the foreseeable future is what is really going to help. You needed a guy who you feel comfortable with, I think, for the future, putting out there, playing the X role. And I think that he can do that to a very good capability. So I love next year being able to be comfortable with knowing that this year it's going to be Rasheed, Xavier, and Hollywood, and then moving on to next year it'll be Rasheed, Xavier, and Jalen Royals for the future. I think he's going to come in and pick up. Steve Smith signed off. Yeah, he did. I mean, I ain't saying Steve Smith gets everything right, but
he's generally right.
Generally, yeah, 80% of the time.
Besides picking women, but never mind.
He has his things that
I'm
he likes
sorry?
and he has his things that he likes and doesn't like.
Yeah,
he loves
prospects are concerned. Damn it, CJ.
No.
But I do think that this one is fair for the things that he likes Jalen for. Keep going.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Great. Yeah. Natural hands catcher, man. I think that he's gonna come in and play a really significant role for them. Not early on. I think this year to have him be your wide receiver 4 versus it being a Justin Watson, I think is a phenomenal add especially to add that kind of explosion and not lose the explosion and speed that Justin Watson on certain downs could provide for you, but getting a guy that obviously is a better route runner and more dynamic on the field, especially over the middle of the field. is awesome at, in my opinion. That wasn't a trait that I didn't really know that he possessed, and how tough he actually was over the middle of the field, and that's something that Steve Smith talked about, the fearlessness to be able to do that. Not all the guys in this league are willing to do that. So for him to show that on his college tape, I think is an elite trait, in my opinion. So I'm happy with that pick. Y'all seen if y'all watched the draft show over the weekend, y'all see my reaction to it. I was definitely hyped. I think I was more hyped for some of the later picks than I was.
No, the Jalen Royals one was crazy.
First round picks. So.
When I saw his column, I didn't think his name was still on the board. I could have swore he got picked. I was like, he's still there. I was like, wow, like that's amazing value.
Yeah, that's what I said. For 31 other teams to watch what he did at Utah State and to be like, nah, we good, and let him fall to the best quarterback in the league. Good luck for the
and
next
you already had Zay and Rashid.
4 years. Yeah. You gave your life. You screwed yourself. So.
And everybody talked about this kid all offseason. Like all the other fans, all the scouts kept raving about him. So even more confirmation that we love him. So
yeah, he went and had a really good Senior Bowl as well to prove his worth. You look at what he brings to the table. Again, he played mostly outside as far as college was concerned. Utah State pretty much almost exclusively lined him outside, and specifically on the left side. I think you saw the ability to run the 9 route very effectively. He could run some of those in breakers and really those outbreakers that made flatter. Some of the curl things he maybe didn't do great, maybe not as much, post. It wasn't a variety of routes. A lot of them were on that linear plane or vertical plane, I should say, from that standpoint. But the ability, again, to create things after the catch and then win one-on-ones on the outside as a man beater, that is something that he did show on a consistent basis in college. And I think that does bode well for what his experience is going to be. Now, you talk about what the 2025 role it looks like. I think that it is variable depending on what Rashee Rice is, because we know obviously Rashee is coming back from the injury, coming back from a possible suspension. We'll see what that looks like. I think that if you put him in the Rashee Rice role early on, you could get some good value out of him. And I would say the Rashee Rice role that you saw rookie year from Rashee Rice, not necessarily the what we saw to start last year from that standpoint. If they can get some of that value early on out of the slot too. In addition to, obviously, they're going to use Juju in those certain places too. But long term, I do truly believe that he could be an outside XY receiver. And when you're pairing him with what we saw from Rashee Rice and the inside work that he was able to do and, the outside aspect that they were able to add to it, plus what Xavier Worthy does, being able to threaten down the field and work in the short aspects to be able to create those quick yards after the catch experiences, I think it makes a lot of sense for the fit in the room, and I like it a lot. I think it fits with those other two guys. I like what Jalen Royals can be long term. And I think it's a really good value as far as the 4th round is concerned. Anything that you guys like to add as far as Jalen Royals to Kansas City is concerned?
Man, I can't wait to see him get on the field. Like I said, being a wide receiver 4 or 5 this year.
That's going to be amazing, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait to see.
And we can say let's go Royals when we're in Arrowhead. Like what makes it better than that? Every time he catches the ball, let's go Royals. Like it's perfect, bro.
I don't know why anybody else would want to say that outside of Arrowhead, but I think it's going to be a really cool celebration.
DMac, forget what he talking about.
And it's Chiefs Kingdom, and I think it makes a lot of sense. You put the crown on his head because he's Jalen Royals.
Why are you talking like this? What's wrong with you?
I like the idea of these Royals. And
why are you talking like that?
It's a good combination. I'm agreeing with you, CJ. But yeah, I'm excited.
DG, I don't like how the way you said that. I don't like that.
I'm looking forward to seeing the kid play. Okay. Last guy we're going to talk about as far as draft picks, Brashard Smith, SMU running back. A lot to his background, a guy that was recruited as a wide receiver out of high school, went to Miami, played there a little bit, ended up transitioning to running back at Miami, then got recruited to be running back full-time at SMU, ironically with a comparison to Isaiah Pacheco, even though I'd say they're very different running backs. He brings that receiving ability to the running back position. You see him at times split out wide at SMU, run wheel routes. He has that in his wheel bag. Obviously, he has the ability to run the running back routes. Obviously, he excels on screens too. A true hands catcher as far as the position is concerned. And I'd say that there's a lot of want-to his game as far as the pass pro aspect of it. Question mark is obviously going to be running the ball. I think that he displayed better vision than I expect for a guy that is new to the position. And the speed aspect is obviously there. Now there's a little bit lighter in the backside, because he is a little bit of that wide receiver build. It's not like he's, like super, super, what's it called? Like super light. Like he's not like 200 pounds, but I think he's about 220, 225, ultimately what he weighed in at. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. He is 200 pounds. I was like, it sounded like he was a little bit lighter than that, but he didn't play like he was big. He played a little bit bigger than that. But again, for a guy that's 5'9" to be 200 pounds, it makes a little bit more sense because he's a little bit more built than what would you expect. And I still think that he can add a little bit of weight when he gets to the league, certainly from that standpoint. But you talk about sub 4.4 speed, he brings that table. It's obvious on tape as well as he explodes, and he gets in and out cuts very quickly. So he's a guy that I wouldn't be giving a massive workload to, but ultimately I don't think that anybody's going to be asking that as far as this is concerned. So I've got 3 questions on him, but I'll ask you guys kind of in waves. So the first one, how much do you believe that he can be a true complement to Isaiah Pacheco day one?
Very.
Third down, especially in the red zone with him. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Very much.
The way we use Jet McKinnon will be very similar. So go ahead, DJ.
Yeah. The ability of change of pace, especially adding with a healthy Isaiah Pacheco. We all know Pop is a guy that you can give 15, 20 carries to, and he can pretty much be your kind of workhorse bell cow back. But this kid coming in and being able to keep defenses honest, especially on third downs, very effective. Him having that receiving background to me is very effective in a third down situation. I cannot wait to see him matched up against a linebacker or something like safety or something on a wheel route. Andy is salivating and ready to cook up something like that for him. And I think once he gets in open field to the secondary level, I don't think you're catching him at all. So it definitely is something they needed. Is what I feel like they kind of lacked last year in that running back room. And I think it's going to obviously help them be able to game plan a little bit better against some teams that really think that they can just come and stack the box and not have to worry about the explosion down the field. So,
no, I love everything about this pick. I know it's funny because right when he had texted me, one of my friends, he used to coach at SMU. He texted me. He's like, "Bro, y'all got a demon." I was like, "Bro, I already know." Like, we watched him a lot during the season last year, so to get him in a 7th round is amazing value because me and DG and a lot of the guys were talking about the draft all year. We were always saying whoever gets this kid is getting a weapon, a guy that can do everything, and you're giving him to Andy Reid. Like DG said, like of all people you would give him to, you're giving him to him. So I love him where we're going to use him as well as third down. A guy that can catch the ball, who can be really versatile. We know we love to use our magic plays, our screen plays to get guys involved in the game plan and be in the open field. And we haven't had this kind of speed since, help me out, DMac, Damian Williams, Dexter McCluster at running back. Like, it's been a while since.
All right, Damian.
But like Damian was like it's been a while since we've had that much speed. It's been a lot of obviously Pop. It's been a lot of Darrell Williams. It's been a lot of Kareem. Well, rookie year Kareem was fast too.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, but it's not just the whatever the testing speed says. It's the actual shows
football
up on,
speed.
on
exactly.
tape.
Exactly. Like he shows.
I would say even we know Kareem Hunt had the explosive element to his game, but even I would say that pure speed on the field,
he's
I don't
faster,
think that
for sure.
He's as fast as that too.
Absolutely. So I love everything about him, especially when you use him in the red zone and getting those fly motions, those jet sweep. All the plays we saw Miko running, you can do those things with Brashard Smith. You can do those those zip motions, those fly jet sweep motions with Zay to get the defense's eyes moving and then use that guy's speed to basically when either one of him or Zay are in motion, you have to respect what they can do because when they touch the ball, they can beat you to the corner and that's 6. So having another guy like that on the field is just going to make you more dangerous in the green zone and the red zone, having those guys that can stretch you not only vertically, but they can beat you horizontally. So him in the middle of the field on a linebacker, like DG said, good luck with that one. So you're just giving Andy more weapons. And anytime you give Pat more speed, they usually get first down to score a lot of points. So,
yeah, absolutely. And so that kind of bleeds into my second question as far as the usage is concerned. I think that's a big key of it. We have seen Andy Reid in the past be able to use running backs effectively. Obviously, we know what he did with Jabal Charles for so many years, being a receiving threat out of the backfield. We saw it a little bit with Kareem Hunt as far as his rookie year was concerned, being able to run those real routes, sometimes right up the seam, being able to make guys miss. But Brashard Smith brings an element to that as well. We haven't seen that recently, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that these guys don't have the skill set for it. We saw Pacheco win one Texas route, and that was really cool. Kareem Hunt is unfortunately past his prime to be able to do so. We haven't really had other running backs. Like Jared McKinnon is a solid enough pass catcher, but he isn't somebody that can run real routes as far as that running back position is concerned. So do you guys think that that can allow for a re-emphasis as far as this kid getting on the field to be a matchup nightmare and splitting out and kind of creating those one-on-ones that make a lot of sense to take advantage of?
Absolutely. We ever use a guy like that who has that type of, and not only because the fact that he plays running back, but he played receiver. So him knowing leverage, knowing how to use head nods, stick nods, and basically breaking on DB's leverage and break even more so linebackers and safety leverage is going to make him that much more of a weapon for us when it's third down, when it's in the red zone. His biggest impact on his team will be in the red zone. Like that year in 2022 when Jared McKinnon had 9 straight touchdowns.
Yeah.
So it's like that's a very like a carbon copy of what he can do in this offense when you're putting him out there. Obviously, we know he's not going to be put in a lot of pass pro situations, so you don't want to give a tell to most defenses. But obviously, you still want to be able to use his speed, which I think is the biggest thing, like DMac said, where he's going to be most effective for the offense. So putting him in motion, DG, putting him in situations where we have, we do that cross action where we have 2 backs on each side of Pat, and you have one go in front, and like you don't know who's getting the ball, and you do an action where you fake one, pitch it, or you fake one and come back and throw a screen. Having him on the field with Xavier Worthy is going to make us that much more dynamic because, like I said, as a defense, when you see either one of those guys go in motion, you have to respect it. And it's going to be an indicator because when I put them in motion to come across the formation, I'm going to see what type of defense you're in when they move. Because if you don't move, then I'm going to give the ball to them. If you shift over, then it's an indicator basically telling me is a man or zone. So having him on the field is just going to make you dictate as a defense. You have to tell me what you're doing because you have to respect speed like that.
Yeah, and that's something that we don't have in the running back room. Obviously,
Exactly.
Elijah Mitchell is somebody that can bring it a little bit, but there's injury question that comes with it. You will see in the beginning of a game where they may not respect Brashard Smith, in a regular season game, and they don't necessarily have a plan for it.
He's a rookie.
They may not respect Brashard Smith who have a specific plan to deal with, hey, what happens if this guy splits out? How are we dealing with it? Mm-hmm. And then you will see, hey, he just burned us. We have to now have a plan for it, and that will be a tell moving forward from that standpoint. So that is an advantage for us to work off of, and I do expect that he will be used specifically in the passing game to create those advantages too. And I did want to show this specific rep because I think it's indicative of, even though that he is new to the position, and Gotcha had a little bit of a question about earlier about would have loved a Bossa pick to be an actual running back. We'll talk about, that again, playing the board as it pertains to this to close this out. But I think that for a guy that has now come to the running back position a little bit later on, he may get the rep that he does not understand how to play the running back position. And I disagree with that because I do believe that he shows the ability to play running back and run the ball on a consistent basis. It's just not something where you really want to expose him to it because he's not that body. But versus a very good Clemson defense, the fact that he is able to press that front side, even though the edge kind of is able to get around it and create some havoc in the backfield, he sees the hole, gets a little skinny through it, and he's one-on-one with that linebacker in space and just able to make a miss with the tight end helping out as well. Then you see his speed and his acceleration and his agility in open field and his
put that foot down,
and he's willing to go ahead and finish the run too. And so the fact that he came with that kind of ability as well on a consistent basis really was impressive to me. And it shows throughout his tape that he has more of our ability to actually run the ball on a consistent basis than him coming late to the position may suggest. And so that's really the big thing that I wanted to highlight. And, he brings a little physicality to him for a guy.
I can see it now, DMac. The full house set we used in the Buffalo game. You got Brashard here. You got Pop on one side. You got Xavier Worthy in the backfield. I can see it now. I already know what Andy's going to call, bro. Just put me on the staff, Andy. I know what you're going to call, bro.
I'm going to ask this question in a second, but you can see why Andy Reid would have popped in his tape, seen what he brings from the receiving level, saw the fact that he does run the ball in a certain manner, and the fact that he's this level of an athlete brings that acceleration and speed, and how he can complement Pacheco, and said, this is the guy I want to add to our offense to be able to use him in a variety of different ways so that I can team things up to create matches for him and others in this offense too, in which we have to make the defense declare. So all that being said, we came into this draft saying we needed to add an explosive element to the running back position. in you guys' opinion, did we wait too long to target running back based on how the board was going and how we ultimately chose guys?
I think it's a fair assumption for people
sure.
to say that. I just think it's like I said earlier. That sometimes things in the draft they just don't fall your way.
Can't get every player you want. So.
Yeah, I think everybody was talking about, of course, the top two guys and Henderson and Judkins. But we all seen that those guys, what in the first couple picks around. So
both in the 40s,
obviously,
and 30s,
you're going to have to move heaven and earth to get up there to be able to pick one of those
defensive
guys.
line depth to do so as well.
Yep.
So it's like I always say, it's a pay a price, man. What price are you willing to pay to go and get one of those guys? Obviously there was a lot of guys that fell into the third and fourth rounds and fifth rounds as well too. But I just feel like they kind of had a plan that they liked. It was one of those things. Like I felt like they didn't need a bell cow back, in my opinion, that brought that element of explosion for them. They just needed somebody that provides that change of pace for them. The league is moving in a direction where you need 2-3 running backs to do different things for you. And I think that's what Brashard Smith obviously provides for them. They needed that explosion piece. And I think they went and got it, man. Especially with his capabilities of him being a former receiver, I think it really helps on that aspect of what Andy Reid can do. I'm telling you, Andy Reid is salivating right now because
a guy like this, boy,
the type of positions that he can put this kid in, especially in the pass game, and be able to keep defenses, honest as far as not being able to have them load the box or not respect you down the field or anything like that. So I think the Chiefs are back to being that NASCAR offense that they were once previously. And I know a lot of people had their favorites or whatever. I have my favorites too. Or whatever, but that's the draft, man. That's the way it works. You're not gonna get everything that you want, and you have to have plans when you don't get what you want to move on and execute them. So I'm glad they got this kid. I'm glad they brought him in, and I think that he's gonna be a valuable piece for them.
Yeah, and I think that a big piece of that is when you talk about how to play the board. In my opinion, there were 4 guys that would be true 3-down running backs and within this draft class as far as prospects are concerned. All 4 of those guys are off the board by pick 40, and I don't think the Chiefs were ever going to be in a range to make that happen. I was not going to sacrifice possibly taking Josh Simmons to get one of those running backs. That's just not where I was going to be with it. I would have preferred to continue to get that defensive line depth rather than sacrifice to trade up and get one of those running backs. No, I think that we need to inject more pass rush juice and get after the passer with 4 from that standpoint. The question is, hey, do you take a DJ Giddens in the 5th round over Jeffrey Bassa? Ultimately,
that's debatable.
Yeah, that it is a debatable thing. But also, I can see why Steve Spagnuolo said, "Hey, there's a very limited sample size of linebackers that are really athletic that I trust to call my defense if Nick Bolton, for example, were to go down and have the coverage ability." And Bassa hits on all 3 of those things. So he says, "Yeah, that's a way we can target him, and we still want that guy, Brashard Smith." So I don't think that a true 3-down back was realistically within the cards for the Chiefs. I don't think necessarily that. And then on the flip side of that, I can understand why they went elsewhere as far as the other picks were concerned. So I'm fine with the Brashard Smith pick. And DG specifically mentioned something that I wanted to highlight as well. And I tweeted this out that Brashard Smith was top 5 at SMU at being able to take advantage of space created by non-stack boxes. He was top 5 as far as yards per carry versus slack boxes in 2024. And ultimately speaking, you're never going to get teams to stack the box versus their run game because we have Patrick Mahomes. And if you have a healthy Rashee Rice, Jalen Royals, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown out there, then certainly not going to be stacking the box. You need guys that can take advantage of space. He understands how to do that because of his speed, acceleration, and vision, in addition to obviously all the value that he can bring from a receiving standpoint. So I think it's important to highlight as well that he understands where to take advantage of those situations. And I think that's a very important aspect of it for what we're going to be able to try and bring to Kansas City. It's more about, can you get a false step, from a linebacker than necessarily, hey, are we stacking the box against you? Because all you need is that linebacker just to think twice after you get one of these runs from Brashard Smith, in which he can, go ahead, get skinny in the hole and be able to create some yards after he gets the ball. And I wanted to show these two back to back of him getting skinny as far as a hole is concerned and being able to create some yards there with his speed and acceleration. You only need a few of those reps throughout a game that ultimately causes, a linebacker to think twice when you get that play fake, and ultimately that'll open up the intermediate areas for Patrick Mahomes to be able to attack. And so it's fun to watch.
I love that what you just said, DMac. I think a lot of people wanted like DG said earlier, a bell cow back or a starting running back. And obviously, I would have loved to have added a guy like DJ again because I think he could have been a starter. But I think in this offense, based on what we have right now, you can't be mad or upset. You could be different about your opinion. I get that part. But you can't be upset with the pick about Brashard Smith because everything we needed for the backfield, like we just said, during the whole process, he adds to us. All the speed, all the explosion, and the versatility, even more so because he played receiver. We needed this in our backfield. Now, you may not like the size. Granted, I understand that. But people said the same thing about Dexter McCluster. He was a very productive player for us while he was here. And we're not going to ask Brashard Smith to be at every down back. That's what you have Kareem and you have Pacheco for. And obviously, there'll be more running back classes. Running back is probably one of the more lower value positions. There's always going to be guys you can find in every draft. I know we love this class, but I'm with you, D-Mac. If it wasn't Trey or Quinshawn, I wasn't really tripping on any of these other running backs. I said RJ Harvey would have been a grazing value. I hate he went to Denver. DJ would have been a great value for us as well. But I love what Brashard can do. He was on my list. And I said if he's there, he was like our last case scenario. So I'm not upset with it at all because I know he can make our backfield better, and he does something that we don't have right now. And using him on specialty situations, especially in the red zone and the green zone, is going to be amazing. Like DG said, the Legion of Zoom and all the speed we had, all that's back when you have like Jalen and Zay and Hollywood and Rasheed, and you add a guy like Brashard, and he's only going to make Pacheco better because he's in the contract year. He wants to get paid, whether it be here or somewhere else. He's only going to make everyone. And the great Therese Payne said it best, fellas. Contract year is undefeated. So you're only going to make players better. So I love this pick. It makes sense. It makes complete sense for what we needed. And he's an explosive player. And Andy's had these type of players before, and he's done wonders with them. So I don't know why you'd even be upset with this pick because Andy has shown his track record that he can make this player an effective one for us.
I was going to say also, he's going to make this team, and I'm going to tell you why he's going to make this
team. And he returns kicks.
Because they're going to put him in kick return.
Exactly.
For sure.
Two positions.
So Dave Poe was looking at this film like, yes, give me that kid.
For sure.
So I'm glad that you guys had mentioned that as well. I did want to get into the kind of return aspect of it. Both him and Jalen Royals both have kick return experience, and also Noah Williams has kick return experience. As we talk about, the defensive guys as far as that's concerned, which will make the wide receiver kind of room and what that ends up looking like very fascinating because Nico Remigio burned the punt return aspect of it last year as well. So it's going to be fascinating from that standpoint. But again, when you came, like I said, I didn't think that you were going to realistically probably get a 3-down back as far as this draft was concerned. I think you could have taken the swing on RJ or DG or a DJ, I should say. Ultimately, it was going to be tough to make that happen with the other players that you liked on the board. So I was good with the pick. And if you're going to take a guy late, he's got to have the fit really high, in my opinion, to be a part of the rotation. Pacheco can still be your early down back, and the way that you'll be better for Pacheco is you want to ask Pacheco to do some things that he maybe not as great at, and he'll be fresher to close out games later on as you get later on to the games. And I think that's an important piece of it too. He's better when he's fresher. He'll play a part of that as well. Kareem Hunt can still be your shorter artist back too, and ultimately Brashard Smith and everything that it brings to the table fits there. And so I'm extremely excited about it. So all that being said, we're going to end up closing this out, kind of discussing just one of our favorite offensive UDFAs that the Chiefs have ended up bringing in. I'm going to start out because I do have a guy that the Chiefs are going to bring in, have brought in and signed as a UDFA. And this was a guy that I liked a lot. Esapoli from Washington State, offensive tackle. He's a guy that is 6'8", Athletic, brings a basketball background, has the feet to move on a consistent basis. Played at Washington State, which is a pass heavy system, and showed some pretty good, ability to be able to protect the passer. I think you can still clean up some things as far as his technique is concerned. But I am really excited to see what he can bring to the table. He is somebody that I think can ultimately be a swing tackle. I wouldn't say immediately in 2025, but can be a swing tackle option for 2026 and beyond. And ultimately, Jalen Moore being on that 2-year deal, I can see a scenario in which Esapoli is on this team for 2 years and takes over the right tackle position to book in with Josh Simmons in 2027 beyond. Like, I do think that is a realistic scenario because of what that kid brings to the table, because he is new to football and because he did play in a pass-heavy system. So I do like Esapoli, and I want to give him some time to be able to develop, certainly. But I think that he does have a future in this league, either as a swing tackle or maybe even a starter, because I do think the upside and the tools are there. You just got to coach him up to get him. But yeah, 6'8", or I should say 6'5", not 6'8", 6'5", 323. He plays. He's athletic. He does a very good job. He's got a good shuttle. He's got basketball feet. I like the way that he plays. Needs a little work for his run technique, but still plays with enough power that I like. I think his anchors in a solid place can work a little bit as well, but it's more about a technique thing. But I like what he can bring to the table, so hopefully he does end up sticking on this team as well. DG and CJ, do you guys have UDFA that you guys like to highlight that we ended up bringing in?
I think a lot of people love the Elijah Badger pick up from Florida. And I will say, Justin Ross, count your days.
Did you want to just kick somebody off this team, man?
It's almost up, buddy.
DG said, you gone.
Yeah. Sky Moore and Justin Ross, your days are counted now, brother. You're out of here, Bucko.
Bucko is crazy.
Bucko is nuts, bro.
I haven't seen much of this kid, but from what I've been seeing, people, kind of rant and rave about him. It seems like people are pretty confident that he can possibly maybe crack the 53, if not the practice squad as well. So excited to see what he can bring to this training camp. Obviously playing at a prestigious school like Florida, guys don't make it there and have success there without being talented at that level. So I'm excited to see what he can bring. Excited to see more from him.
I think my favorite UDFA is probably Jake Brenningstool, tight end out of Clemson. Obviously, want to see more athleticism, more back there, especially because I haven't seen personally Jared Wiley run since the injury. So I want to see him be healthy and be able to be that tight end 3 in our sets, because I know we're at best when we're in our 3 tight end sets. So if Jared's not fully healthy and they're not rushing them back because he did get hurt early in the season last year, I think Jake Brenningstool can come in and learn that position well. A guy that can used to running routes, used to making plays, used to getting open. He's a tight end 1, so I think it wouldn't be a hard transition for him to be a tight end 3. Not the best blocker, but I think if you're asking him to make plays as a tight end 3, to stretch the field and make plays up the seam, I think he can do that as well. So out of all the UDFA, there's some guys that can make the team, and obviously Elijah Badger is probably the crowd favorite for everyone. A sleeper for me is definitely Drake Brenningstool out of Clemson. I think he can come in and make this roster if given the opportunity, for sure.
Yeah, and those are the 2 big shout outs, because Brenningstool, he's a guy that does he's a guy that does run real good routes. Like, he does bring that to the tight end position. He's more of that receiving only tight end. Doesn't block all that well there. I do think he can do some of the move stuff. So he's going to make the tight end situation very interesting. Obviously, Robert Tonyan is still there. They're getting Wiley back. We know who the top 2 are ultimately. Where that pans out is going to be very fascinating, and obviously you're going to keep your ear to the ground to see if he can make some waves as we get into rookie minicamp, to try and say, hey, let's give him a leg up as we get to St. Joe later on into the summer. So be interested. I love Elijah Badger. I would have taken Elijah Badger with the 7th round pick personally. The fact that they were able to then grab him kind of as a UDFA, I think is awesome. You look at what he brought to Florida. He was able to be a primary XY receiver. He did a pretty good job as far as beating man coverage. He was fine as far as, zone was concerned, but he was very comfortable with beating press. And I do think that he has a future as far as a perimeter type of wide receiver. So if they can keep him around and allow him to continue to develop, I think that's cool. I do think that there's a scenario, and this is a little bit obviously as we get into St. Joe, in which They feel confident in the returnability of Brashard Smith. They feel confident in the returnability of Jalen Royals. They feel confident in the returnability of Noah Williams. And they say, hey, we're going to talk about you guys particularly as wide receivers. And we know the top 5 wide receivers are the top 5 wide receivers as of today. But that wide receiver 6 may end up going to a guy Elijah Badger over Nico Remigio simply for the fact of they have return options already on the field. And they feel confident in what Elijah Badger's future could look like. But I hope we can keep him at the very least on the practice squad moving forward, because I do think that he has a future in this league. And after this year in which Hollywood Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster's contracts are expiring, we could use the depth as well. So I think it'll be interesting to watch as we get into rookie minicamp, which one of these guys can kind of make waves. And I will just say this before we get wrap up the UDFA aspect of it. Amongst Power 5 tackles last year, or Power 4 tackles technically last year, that had, I think it was 330 pass blocking snaps, Esapoli was top 10 as far as his efficiency was concerned at allowing pressure. So he does have that ability. You're talking about he was in a range, of guys like Kelvin Banks. Membu was higher than him. Josh Connolly Jr. was number 1. Shout out to Josh Connolly Jr., who went to the Commanders. But he was ahead of guys like Chase Lunt, who got picked in the 5th round. He was better than Will Campbell. Will Campbell was at LSU against SEC defenses, so you got to take that into account. He was better than Ariante Ursary. Obviously, he went very early to the Texans in the 2nd round, too. So, Esapoli's got some ability to his game. He understands how to deal with heavy pass set systems. And I think that'll serve him well as he tries to impress the Chiefs coaching staff. So all that being said, I think that that's a pretty good wrap on everything as it pertains to the actual Chiefs offensive draft roster. We will get into the defensive side of the roster next week on Tuesday. Before we did wrap this up, I did wanted to point out real quick. We did do a draft contest. I want to say yours truly ended up winning. I predicted 2 out of 3 of those guys correctly. Sorry. With Josh Simmons going in the 1st round, and I did have Noah Williams as well getting picked by the Kansas City Chiefs, which was pretty nice. I think DG missed on his, and then CJ also missed on his.
That's that bullshit.
I'm trying to see, did anybody else pick somebody that we had that we ended up taking? I don't think anybody else. Maybe Corey did. Did Corey grab anybody? I'm sorry. Yeah, Corey had us take. Corey had us take
Jalen on Simmons, I think.
I was the only one that had Simmons. Me and Ethan were the 2 that had Simmons. Corey did have Jalen Royals as well, getting picked in the 3rd. Obviously, we took him in the 4th, so that's the only people. But I was the only one to get 2 players right. As I also won the 1st round contest, as we were having a good time with that during the stream. If you guys want to watch that back, my players are too good to fall for.
Good for you.
Fool.
But that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun during the draft stream as well. But now, draft season's wrapped up. We will obviously finish out our draft coverage next week, kind of going through the defensive side of these guys: Omar Normalat, Ashton Gelati, Noel Williams, Jeffrey Bassa, and a little bit about the UDFAs that are on the defensive side of the ball. In addition, we will go over it and see if there's any news. The week after, we're coming up on the schedule release, May 14th, something to be looked out for. We'll be able to kind of go down, take a look at it as far as an early preview of what this Chiefs schedule is going to end up looking like. And we'll go around the league also as we get further into the summer, looking at the draft classes, looking at the roster, as well as breaking down the positions within the Chiefs as we kind of look ahead and see where the 53-man roster is going to end up looking like and how that will all shake out. So thank you guys for joining us. Once again, Underdog Fantasy, as we go into baseball season, obviously basketball playoffs are getting into the 2nd round with the 1st round wrapping up. Use code 23 or code KingdomCast for $100 deposit match. Make sure you guys sign up over there. Air at AM PM tomorrow night. KingdomCast Thursday. And be on the lookout. Trey and DG will be having their new Red Shirt podcast coming out with their 1st episode soon. So looking forward to that. We'll be back with you guys next week. DG, CJ, anything before we go and get on out of here? Nope. Peace out. Go Chiefs, baby.